Computer. All right. So, everyone, thank you so much for being here, for always supporting Moving Mountains. And this next chapter that we are going through is really new for us. And so I want to thank our guest today for um, taking on the challenge of being the first video interview. So without further ado, I want to introduce Ashley. So Ashley, kind of tell us or tell the viewers a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I am Ashley Dunlap. I work at as a certified brain injury specialist, case manager at Brain Injury Connections of the Shenandoah Valley. So I've been here a little over 6 years in the Rockingham County area. So as a lead case manager, I support individuals recovering from various types of brain injuries. So my role involves coordinating care, providing resources, and advocating for those I get to work with, to help them receive the services that they need to live as independent as possible and to thrive where they are.
Yeah, well, you kind of and thank you so much for being here. And you kind of answered my next question. So like, but more specifically, how do you care for your clients through brain injury connections?
Yes. So every month we focus on personalized individual service plans. So they are very client led. They're goals that are very, very important for the client, their family, the caregivers, their support system. So we check in regularly, at least once a month, to kind of address any challenges, adjust any goals that we kind of want to talk about, making connections to resources or therapy options or different things that we just think might be beneficial. And it's usually um, things that we've talked about a great deal. A lot of times it's just motivating some support, encouraging individuals to try different things because it is very scary to navigate the world after a brain injury for sure. And then just trying to help fill in the gaps of where is support needed to help access those services. So maybe you want to do all the things in the community, but maybe transportation is a barrier. So we would kind of help discuss, okay, well, what are some transportation options we could explore? How can we access those services and get things like that set up? So and also facilitate support groups in the community. So this is where individuals can come together and share their experiences and their journey with brain injury. And it kind of gives a great platform to kind of connect more socially and have some things to engage with in the community, but also with each other. And so that is a huge component of support that's usually lacking after brain injury. So we're able to do that. I lead 2 meetings once a month. And then there's also other service areas have support group meetings as well.
Yeah, so I know that brain injury, this is a very specialized field. I never knew brain injuries really existed until it happened to me. So, how did you become so passionately involved with supporting those with brain injuries? And what continues to like motivate you to go on, to go forward?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a little bit of a tricky question, but I think you're right. When you think about brain injuries, it's kind of an invisible diagnosis that a lot of people don't really recognize. Like you can say, stroke or like meningitis or, falls and things like that. Like certain things stand out as like, oh yeah, that's the brain injury, but we don't think about other things. I personally witnessed the struggles of a loved one facing a brain injury when I was younger. And so that kind of really opened my eyes to the complexity of recovery and all the challenges that come with that. And so being able to be a part of that, doing something, being able to help, being a support, seeing individuals come through and like take on these challenges head on and help making a difference is very, very motivating and helping and knowing that we have a great community to call upon and do those wonderful things. So I've been very fortunate to help connect and find the right people to get the job done. So I might not be the person for it, but we can find somebody for sure. There's always somebody out there to kind of connect to kind of get where we need to be with whatever goal that might be. So it looks different for everyone.
Yeah. And so I know with, the next question that's coming to mind, I'm sure there are so many other viewers who take my past stance of really not knowing about brain injuries, but are there like many different types of brain injuries?
Yes, a very common saying in the brain injury community is that if you've seen one brain injury, you've seen one brain injury because every brain injury is very unique and individual. The way it affects the person's function of the brain, the structural changes, it's very different. And everyone could have the exact same impact, but it would affect them very, very differently. So the brain is very tricky and complicated, and we're still learning more and more every day about things that can happen, the recovery potential that can happen. Not so long ago, people believed that, once you had a brain injury, there was no recovery. Like that was it. That was where you were, was where you stayed. But now we know that that's not true. We know that plasticity exists. We know that the brain can rewire itself and be creative and figure out some workarounds and stuff like that. It's a lot more to it than just saying nope, one and done. So a lot of the brain injuries that I work with are, which just means that it's an injury to the brain that is not hereditary, congenital, degenerative, or induced by birth trauma. So usually these injuries occur after birth. So there are some injuries that occur before birth, but here at Brain Injury Connections, we don't work with those clients because there's a Virginia Brain Injury Fund that provides specific services for those individuals. So when we think of acquired brain injuries, they're either traumatic or non-traumatic. So traumatic is probably the most recognized type of brain injury. So this is there's been an alteration to the brain function. So something external has caused an impact to the head. So usually they're open or closed head injuries. So that usually typically means that whether there's a skull fracture, whether there's an impact that breaks open the skull, or whether it's internal, whether it's shaking around and things like that in there. So a lot of them happen from like falls, motor vehicle accidents, assaults, blast injuries, and things like that. And so our non-traumatic brain injuries are more caused by internal factors to the brain. So, like a lack of oxygen or anoxia or hypoxia, those kind of things can cause internal brain bleed or hemorrhaging, cause significant damage to the brain, which often leads to strokes. Different diseases that can happen to the brain can cause brain injuries that are life altering. Even a heart attack could produce a loss of oxygen to the brain and then cause damage to the brain as well. So it doesn't have to just necessarily be something that directly impacts the head. Even if you like, especially with like sports, so you can be like tackled or hit, your head would never be affected, but that jolt of coming into the body and shaking your brain still moves around inside your head. It's still sloshing around in there because of that impact, and it still can obtain damage because of that. So that's kind of where we're seeing a lot more of the effects of concussions. So they're considered a mild traumatic brain injury. I use that term loosely because it concussions affect everyone differently. So some individuals do kind of return to more of a normal functioning after concussions, and some individuals sustain symptoms of concussions. So usually a concussion is more of a functional change to the brain versus a structural. So that's why it's harder to identify concussions, because you can't see it on a scan like you would a traumatic brain injury. So that makes it even trickier and harder to identify, and makes treatment a lot more difficult. And but that's something that as a case manager, I'm seeing a lot more of. And the medical community is starting to do better about recognizing this as something better about. So that was a lot of information for different brain injuries.
Oh
Take
man.
in. But yeah, the short
Well,
answer is that it's very complex, and you
mhm,
know, a lot of different definitions out there and a lot of different ways that it could happen. So
yeah. Well, thank you for all of that wonderfulness. Now, what, as a case manager, what do you work with the most? Like, what brain injuries do you work with?
I think it's pretty close, but a lot more of the individuals that I'm working with currently have more of the non-traumatic brain injuries. So I see a lot of individuals who have sustained strokes, or they've experienced tumors, or meningitis or Chiari malformation and things like that. So a lot of my clients currently have those similar diagnoses, but it's very, very closely followed by traumatic brain injury. So a lot of motor vehicle accidents and a lot of falls. Falls are actually the number one reason for a traumatic brain injury. So and the concussions are kind of picking up a lot too. So I'm starting to see more of that. And it's exciting to see that the county is starting to recognize that a little bit more. And Centera is kind of bringing back in the concussion care that they've kind of been a little lacking on recently because they've lost providers and things like that. But we're trying to put our foot in the door there. So definitely a wide range of different injuries that I come into contact with. And yeah, it's surprising of how many individuals come through with more of the non-traumatic injuries.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm sure. And you I know that you are a pretty positive person. Do you think positivity plays a role in a person's recovery?
Yeah, absolutely. I think your mindset and your attitude 100% determines the trajectory of your recovery in a big way, especially when you have a really good support system. So a hopeful mindset can lead to better engagement in therapies and facing challenges that come because this journey of a brain injury, regardless of the severity of it, is most definitely a journey. And it's most definitely a new way of moving forward, of determining different supports and different ways to do things that you used to do before. So, I've noticed that clients who maintain a positive outlook seem to progress a little bit more effectively than in their journey, and they have a lot more determination. I think determination and some grit of just, you know what, I'm going to do this makes a huge difference. And that comes down to like mindset and being able to have a support system around them that's like, yeah, you know what, you can do this. And that makes a huge, huge difference. So every individual that I get to work with is walking a unique journey, but what binds them together is the unwavering potential for progress. So no matter how small each step may seem, just moving forward makes such a huge difference. Just putting one foot in front of the other, and that is such, before you know it, you've gone so far. I think sometimes people get stuck on like, this is everything I was doing before my injury, that they can't recognize the one foot in front of the other. That makes it so much harder to figure out, how far you are coming. But once you have that support and you have people noticing different things and you just keep moving forward, before you know it, you've gone a long way. And it's a lot. So I think support and positive mindset make a huge difference for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And I definitely know and feel that, you know, people getting kind of stuck in the past of what they used to be able to do. I know for a while in the beginning, that's kind of what I was stuck on. But then I kept getting that support, and even with my support group, like it has really helped me move forward.
Mhm.
But I mean, is there anything that you would like to say to our viewers, to other brain injury survivors, or maybe even to the caregivers? Like, yeah,
Mhm. So, recovery from a brain injury is definitely a journey, and it's okay to take one step at a time. And it is vital to have support, so don't be hesitant to reach out for help. I think you'd be really, really surprised at how many people will respond to a call to help when you open up and let that help come sometimes. I think that's very difficult to do because I'm a doer and I want to help others, but sometimes those are the worst people to ask for help because they want to be the one helping everyone. So For caregivers, it's important to remember to take care of yourselves as well because it's crucial for providing the best support. And so together we can create a strong community for healing and growth. So support plays a vital role. And as a case manager, my job is to help guide you in figuring out those support system as well. So, it takes a village for sure. And I don't think that's said quite enough of how much being able to build up your support system, being able to get out there and ask for the things that you need, no matter how big or small they may be, and be surprised about the community of care that exists. I think you'd be really surprised at how many people are willing to help step up and help get you to reach those goals that you want to reach towards.
Yeah, well, that's all of my questions for today, but thank you so much for being here, for taking on this video interview, for being the first. I think that all the information you have given is really going to be helpful to our viewers. And, you know, pretty much expect some more some more people to be coming at you.
That's what
But
I'm here
thank you
for.
so much.
You're
Yeah.
welcome. Yeah,
Yeah.
no problem.
And for everyone else, thank you all so much for watching this, for always supporting Moving Mountains. And we will see you next month for another video interview. So stay tuned. Thank you.